Welcome to the Coffee Club, broadcasting live from New York with your host, Felix, and co-host, Dr. Mark. So let's have a cup of coffee and enjoy the show.
There is no heaven. There is no heaven. There is no hell. There is only this world and its dark reflection. And we do not know in which of the two worlds we are.
Good evening. This is Felix.
And the very surprised Dr. Mark.
Yeah, and so am I. Who's that that's trying to push in on the show? Somebody's trying to hijack us?
Very well might be.
I don't know.
But you know what I have to say? Hi-ho, hi-ho, it's off to war we go. Yes, sirree, ladies and gentlemen. That is our topic for the day. Are we going to war? We want to hear what you have to say. Will you consider this a war? What kind of action is this?
Well, if you listen to the President and the Secretary of State, they very reluctantly say we are in war. Seems like you have to squeeze it out of them to admit it, but they said yes. They said if we're in war with Al-Qaeda, then I guess we're in war with ISIS.
I mean, this is really strange when you stop and think that the coalition, supposed coalition, I don't even know. But then again, when Bush took us into Iraq, there was no coalition. Some of those countries that he mentioned sent 2 soldiers or something? Is that support? I don't know. But in any event, we are committing airstrikes, whether it's by drone or U.S. pilots. We are hoping that some of the countries in the Middle East, especially Iraq, whose army is really not ready to do this, commit boots on the ground, and that the Syrian army does likewise, because otherwise there's no one fighting ISIS.
Well, first thing is, who are going to arm in Syria? Who's the army there?
Well, they say politics make strange bedfellows. In this case, war tends to make strange bedfellows. You have Syria. I mean, just months ago, we were talking about Bashar al-Assad has to go.
And they're still saying it.
I realize that.
They're not they're not helping him.
And any gains that come about in Syria, you know that eventually when this ends, he will claim those gains for himself, which is almost what started ISIS in the first place. Disillusioned soldiers, Sunnis mainly, who felt that they weren't being represented in the new Iraqi government.
You moved over to Syria.
Both.
Syria just they were all dictatorships in the beginning. But Syria, there is a Free Syrian Army that the CIA supposedly has been trying to train for 2 years now. The problem is 2 of the 3 guys ran away, so there's only 1 left.
All I can say is I remember one of the last reports coming out of Now, granted, this is Afghanistan, but still, it's the same thing in Iraq. Soldiers are abandoning their positions, abandoning their weapons, their tanks, they're just leaving everything out there for ISIS, and push come to shove, they don't want to fight. Well, the bottom line is, if we can't get Iraqis to fight for their country, if we can't get the Syrians to fight for their country because they don't want ISIS to march through, we can't do it. This is their war. ISIS wants to bring it to us.
Well, ISIS, or ISIL, as the president calls it, and there's a reason for that. Do you know why he calls it ISIL, not ISIS?
I know it's the Islamic states of Iraq and Syria, but the L stands for something.
Well, they changed the L because the L also includes Saudi Arabia. It also includes Jordan. So the U.S. is basically saying that these guys are going for much more than just those two states.
Well,
that's what ISIL means.
Well, as they have said, they want to establish a caliphate. They want to rule over all of the Middle East. In other words, doing away with Saudi Arabia, doing away with Syria, doing away with Afghanistan and Iraq, and all of that is encompassed under ISIS or ISIL.
Well, as I said before, my feeling is that they're like the modern day Crusaders. They want to head on to Jerusalem. That's their goal. And take over Jerusalem, I guess, at the same time, I assume, wipe out Israel, but they want to be in Jerusalem, and they're doing the same as the Crusaders. They're killing, they're massacring, they're taking slaves.
Well, I must say that, not that I take issue with the Rev, but I read an article today in Biblical Archaeology Review talking about the first Crusades, and when the Crusaders marched into Jerusalem, on the second day, they slaughtered all the Muslims, men, women, and children. They entered a synagogue where the Jews went for sanctuary, and they murdered all of them. And then they pillaged Jerusalem and stole, treasures, Muslim treasures that they felt really belonged to the church, the Western church. Now, in that same article, they said that the Islamic countries fighting against the Crusaders, their libraries were filled with Roman and Greek knowledge and Egyptian knowledge that the Crusaders brought back with them to the West, that the Crusaders gained more than just the land. They brought back centuries of wisdom, which is really something to stop and think about.
I agree, but what I'm saying, what are the ISIS doing? They're marching, but instead of killing, marching also kill Muslims. They're killing all the Catholics. They're killing all the Jews in their way. They're just a different religion, or if you want to call them religion, with the same goal. Destroy,
kill. It's important to note that every leader of every country is making sure to reiterate that ISIS or ISIL does not represent the Muslim religion, okay? Because nowhere in the Quran does it say that they should slaughter especially Muslims, okay? Now, I know that some people out there are going to say that if you're not a Muslim, you're an infidel. Okay, but according to the Quran, it's up to every Muslim to try to convert the infidel into accepting the word of Muhammad when he met Allah, okay, when he ascended into heaven and then came down. That's it.
Well, again, we have a group of people who do horrible things in the name of God. And let's not, how should I put it?
Are they even doing it in the name of God? I don't know.
They are. They definitely are. They want to be what do they call that? What state they want to be? What do they call that?
A caliphate.
No, what Iran is. Very strict Muslim.
Sharia law?
Yeah, Sharia law. That's what they're looking for.
Well, they want to go further than Sharia law. I mean, look how the men cover themselves up so well. I know that's so that they're not identified.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're drawing from the ranks of Western Europeans, a handful of Americans.
Well, we don't know how many Americans.
I said a handful.
I know, it could be more. So I'm saying nobody knows.
No one has said more than a few dozen, okay? But it might be. I mean, look, you've got two from Minnesota right away, the two that blew themselves up.
Oh, they got killed. One of them got killed in the fire. They got killed in Syria or something. One of them at least did. I don't know. It's just a sad situation. And then you've got, believe it or not, the two countries that seem to supporting us right now is France and Australia. They seem to be the only ones that are actually committed anything.
Well, I'm not surprised at Australia. I am very surprised at France. France usually doesn't want to get involved.
Well, France has always had a lot of stake in the Middle East. They've been in there and out of there. They got us into Libya, which is a mistake. But they're involved.
France got us into Vietnam.
And when you think about it now, they asked Jordan to help, and they said, don't bother us, we've got our own problems.
And Turkey is a little reluctant right now, I understand.
They wouldn't let our airplanes land there.
Well, they said primarily because a lot of the defectors come through Turkey, but they also said that ISIS is holding something like 70 Turkish diplomats, okay, and they're worried that if they support this insurgency, that Turkish diplomats may wind up being beheaded as a result.
Well, let me go back to what I was saying. So that Jordan's no good. Our friends in Egypt said we got too much of our own problems.
No, they do.
They do. So they're not going to help. Saudi Arabia says we don't fight. Or whatever they said, but they're not helping any.
You know, what also doesn't help is when you watch the Sunday morning news shows here in the States. You know, you had Lindsey Graham on Fox News saying that if you think that airstrikes are going to be enough to defeat ISIL, you got to be crazy. That eventually is going to